Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Ryan.
How are you doing?
Okay, how are you? Okay, how are you?
Okay, how are you? I'm doing very well. I'm in a giddy mood, Rachel. I'm almost so giddy with joy and yum that I cannot contain it. I think we need a scientific expedition into my psyche to figure out why there's so much yum on my brain as well as in the brain. But Rachel, perhaps you can give us a little bit of insight into what happens on this podcast and why Yum is so linked to it all. It's the name of the show, but please walk us down that rocky road of this pod.
We're named Yum because you like torturing me, amongst other reasons. It is in honor of a line from Star Trek Discovery Season 2.
And on this podcast, we like to go over science fiction television because that science fiction television show, Star Trek Discovery, inspired us so much that we just had to transmit our thoughts, feelings, and opinions on some television shows that we are watching through. And we have done so many
rewatches, but we have not seen The Expanse before, so this is our first time through, so no spoilers.
Yes, we are watching through The Expanse for the first ever time, and it is a series with a great reputation because of such things as interstellar politics. You've got spaceship battles, intrigue, mysteries, and of course, Havelock. Everyone keeps saying you gotta watch the show for Havelock, and I'm so happy that was something said to me going in. You got to see it for Havelock. Everyone keeps saying Havelock, Havelock, Havelock.
You'll never forgive that, will you?
Nor will I forget. The show has.
Okay,
I
this
haven't.
episode does not have Havelock in it. But today, we are here to talk about the Weeping Somnambulist.
You have to really break that one down. It's a fun word that one doesn't get to use all that often.
Somnambulist.
It's getting more and more degraded as you go.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
What happened in this episode?
This is a fucking shit description.
Okay, Rachel's got a description. I'm ready to hear.
Bobby becomes a pawn in a struggle between Earth and Mars.
Season 2's descriptions on IMDb have been short, simple, and to the point, and in this case, devastatingly so. We like to reference Yum all the time. It's our rating system, and also a unit of measurement for horniness in an episode we have watched, because that line has an inherent sexual quality in Discovery, and so when we look over an episode of The Expanse, we like to air out what got us hot under the collar and over the collar, and Rachel has her automatic Amos pick, where she lets us know what thing about Amos got her going this week, because Amos he's a stud. And I agree with that, and I thought he was full of joy this time. I wrote in my notes, Amos is back. And then under my notes at the very end, I wrote, Rachel won't have any guilt-picking one this week, because the last couple of weeks, it feels a bit guilty to do this to the character, because he's been so sad and so angsty. So, Rachel, what have you got for us? What is your Amos pick of the week?
When he's just like, he's working with us. He deserves the truth. I just found that very endearing and sexy.
I did too. That was actually one I circled.
But, like, that's my automatic pick. But Christian saying, wherever I goddamn please.
That was mine. You stole mine. You stole me just her crushing it in that room. Where are you going? Wherever the fuck I want, bitch.
Talk dirty to me.
And who's this guy? Is he a chaplain? Well, he can go fuck himself. She was firing on all cylinders of sexiness. Her outfit was great. Her attitude was great. I thought a contender was our faux Australian scientist man. I don't even know if he's Australian anymore. His accent wasn't bearing any Aussie qualities this week, so maybe we guessed wrong on him in that previous discussion. Maybe he is supposed to be South African or Canadian. I don't know. It was distracting, though, that his accent wasn't consistent. Wherever it's supposed to be from, it's not from Earth. So maybe it's a sci-fi space accent. We know it isn't, but hey, it's okay. But I thought he had a level of sexiness to him in this one. He was just swaggering all over the place. He inferred that guy's name is actually Anus. Yeah. And that was very good. And that
was fun. He's just flirting with everybody.
He's flirting with me. And I'm at home with my wife, and that's not on. She watches it with me, Doctor. You're a doctor of, I don't know, horniness, I guess.
What are you doing?
I'm just helping this bright young lady adjust the sensor array.
That's hard to believe. I didn't think you had any useful skills.
The Weeping Somnambulist is a real great title, and I did not expect it to be a ship for a start. I'm just launching straight into that because we didn't even really think what that meant. I was like, oh, a somnambulist, I'm pretty sure that's someone who sleepwalks. And, oh, it's going to be relating to a character specifically who's in a sleepwalking state. And, or maybe that's Bobby because she's kind of this person who's stuck between things right now and lives in a mentally catatonic state at the moment. But no. It's a name of a ship. And they even say it's a weird name. And one character, one little bandit man, really rejoices in how it's a freaky name because he's so sick of names of ships being, oh, this poor girl who died in this incident. But
children left behind.
What did you think of the episode overall?
I thought it was pretty good. I feel really sorry for Melissa. The fact that she is just destroyed in their wake.
She's the one who owns the Weeping Somnambulist?
Yeah. Partner, husband, potentially.
Holden ruins her life.
Yeah. Like, I genuinely think that she would have rather just been killed as well than be saved.
Yeah. I enjoyed this one very much so. I thought this was a massive boost in quality since the last few episodes. And as people have heard, I've enjoyed some of the last few episodes. I thought this was right up there in the season, and I would not be surprised if, unless there's obviously going to be bigger, better episodes ahead of us, and I hope there is, but I would not be surprised that if we get to the recap, this is in my number 2 slot. I think Home is still the best episode of the season, but this is everything I want. This is sci-fi politics, this is character work, there's levity, there's gravitas, there's drama, we're furthering the stakes of the plot, but we aren't forgetting about having a good time while doing it and making sure that we are allowing the characters/actors moments to breathe. There was all of these little details in the episode that I found so enriching to the overall experience, whether it is as simple as Ehrenreich cutting off the minute of silence or moment of silence that they were supposed to have because he's such a prick, to Amos after seeing this shootout gone wrong, he just offhandedly says something along the lines of, oh yeah, it's all clear. Just it really helps solidify that this woman's life is over, but the people who ended it, their lives will continue on. Like, they've got their mission, it's all clear now, but here she is, looking at the man of her, like, the love of her life, dead. But Amos, he's Amos. Hey, yeah, it's all clear, all good, we done it, it's all sorted, Naomi. I thought that was really great little touch. So, what were some of the things, for you, Rachel, that made this one a good one for you?
Other than Christian? Because, she's a pretty big part of this episode, and a pretty big part of what makes this episode like a banger. It's a banger.
Is it?
It's not fully, like, her parts, I mean. Like, the
Mhm.
episode as a whole, not, it didn't hit for 6.
Is it always unfair that some of the greater stuff in the show is Christian just because we have such an affinity towards her? Do you think, and you are a big fan of, say, Amos, for example, as well, but do you think that at this point any other storyline or character stuff could ape Christian? Could go even beyond where she's at? Do you think that's possible?
Like, I'm not going to say that it's impossible, but I think it is low. It's a lower possibility.
Does it bother you? Because it bothers me that there is such a huge gap between my investment of Christian stuff and everything else. It does bother me sometimes because I want there to be a little bit more of an equality when it comes to my overall enjoyment of the things in a given episode, but it really is. Christian stuff is a million miles ahead of everything else, and everything else, I don't mind. I like it. If you've listened to other episodes of this podcast, you know how I feel about certain things, as you know how Rachel feels. But I just wanted to at least touch base with that, because even stuff that's more closely related to Christian, I find more interesting than the things that are further away. So, although a small part of this episode, we do get the trip to Venus with the scientific expedition that's going out there to survey the remains and wreckage of Eros and what happened there, and see if they can gather any clues, any pieces of evidence or remains, and do some surveying on it, and maybe blueprint stuff out. And this doctor character, what do you think of this little strand of the episode? Because although minor, they do keep coming back to it.
Yeah, like, it's sprinkled in just the right amount. I think it helps with the overall pacing of the episode to have those little bits away from these beefy things that are happening that are a little bit more serious and we're already really invested in. Whereas the stuff with potential Australian doctor it's seeding at the moment. That's what they're doing. But it is still interesting because it is connected to a plot that we're very familiar with.
The team is trying to get to Venus, but they're being stonewalled and then eventually followed by the Martians and their ship. And there is no real proper formal line of communication. There is an attempt there, but it ties so beautifully into what is happening on Earth, where it's a parallel to what is going on there, where we have the humans, we have the Earthlings meeting up with the Martians, and there's the same thing there where they're stonewalling each other, they're giving each other the cold shoulder, there's some formality, but what's the actual agendas behind it? There's always a level of hostility. And so here we are getting that in space, all the way over here, that is happening. And that if this goes into a moment of violence, it will ripple back and make all of the work that's happening right now on Earth mean absolutely nothing. So it does give almost this simmering tension to what Bobby and Christian and Aaron Wright and so on are trying to achieve, because you have to rely on these scientists to keep a cool, level head and not fuck things up over here because they're afraid of these Martians with their potential guns pointed at them. I also really enjoyed that it wasn't just that. They focused that inside of this ship, there is conflict brewing between the characters there, where you have this doctor character, Dr. Iterby. I need to learn how to pronounce his name. I've heard it once and I see it written down, and we'll get there. And the what was he, like the major or colonel or captain or whatever, the one that he's like, you remove the J in Anus, Mr. Anus. They are both scientists. One is clearly a military man, but still a man of science, and they have fundamentally different views. They are colleagues who respect each other, but clearly do not have respect for one another at the same time. And so you have a war of ideologies and opinions, and that just added to the stakes as well. But I found their conversations just genuinely interesting and engaging. I was wanting to just have these two in a room, just keep hashing it out, because although we have certain pieces of the puzzle that these characters do not, so we know that this Dr. Iterby character is on the right track with where he's going, the other characters don't necessarily know that, and so this argument between the two has a great sense of validity because there's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence.
We haven't encountered aliens yet, so why would now be the time?
And to even push against it more, he does underline that you are a person who will twist things to match your already decided views. I'm glad that there is this man from Earth who is stumbling across these things that we are already aware of, but I feel on edge about it too because he's
expendable. That is something that I'm worried about.
Yeah, I can see that being a thing too. He is in constant communication with Christian, so she's already she'll get some information at the end of this, but I was going to say I'm on edge because I don't trust him as a person either.
True.
He's so hungry for the quote-unquote truth that I can see him being someone that is easily corrupted and somebody that I just find him a slippery guy overall. I don't know if you get that or is...
Oh, yeah. He's a slimy motherfucker.
Yeah? What about it? What about him has been giving you that?
He's sleazy. He's flirty. They're coding that into his DNA as a character. It's just like he's got a heart-on for everybody and loves to flirt.
Yeah, I agree, but...
So it's just like is he going to think with his dick?
Right. I also see how that is angled to show that he is contrasting against the Colonel, who is a far more regimented, stiff upper lip, joyless figure, while this man, Dr. Iterby, he is a man of emotions, and he's opening himself up to all possibilities.
In a way.
Yeah, he is that idea.
Giving that vibe.
Yeah, he's that idea of you got to try everything. You've got to have a taste of everything to know. What makes him someone that I raise an eyebrow at is how he presents himself to people in many facets. So to Christian, he's very charming. He's having drinks with her. He's telling her things in a very frank manner. He treats her with respect. But then when he's on this ship, he's making comments about Christian. She's always had a bit of a thing for me. Because, how sexy I am. Aren't I just the best? How he just talks about these people like Christian and Janus.
He thinks he's the main character. He brings main character energy, and we know that he's not. So that's another reason that we're like, no.
I wanted to believe in magic.
Well, you know, that's normal for a child, right?
That's because children are stupid. When I grew up and I learned the real explanation for the stars, it became even more amazing.
Yeah, I have a feeling I know where you're going with this.
You're a very intelligent man.
Oh, hey, thank you.
But you seem to think that everybody else around you is stupid.
Just some.
They keep on saying Eros changed everything. And now we have yet another meaning for that statement. Because the blue goose survived.
It adapts.
It adapts.
It finds a way of recontextualizing everything. So now we can have life on Venus.
Yes. Yes, we do. And they find that. And possible Australian pulls out his phone and records it and sends it back. Sends his little voice note back to Christian.
It is good that this is confirmed because I was wondering with a statement that you made about Miller and if he was alive or dead and what form would it be.
Yeah.
And I just dismissed it as, oh, they nuked it, so it's done. It should be okay. But it was so big. It was such a massive thing.
There was so much of the blue goo on the station.
And it had gained so much
Power.
knowledge. Oh, yes, physical power, but also like knowledge
Yes,
of things.
yeah.
So I
It was
could
powerful
see
in
it
different ways.
being able to adapt to a nuke at that point, and it being in Venus, and it's like, oh
Going
my god,
into the atmosphere.
don't they know that Venus has all of these crazy elements that make it impossible for life to breed there and live there? And I just want to know now, what is this life? Like, what is it? What does it look like? Like, what's
I
the
feel
scale
like we're
of
not
it? Is
gonna
it
see it again
is
for
it,
a bit.
Is it just microbes? Is it like, is there a guy living there going, hello, it's me? Like, is Miller just going to be sitting there with a cigarette in his mouth?
Encoded with the human DNA that...
Eros had in it?
Yeah.
Is it just a big version of Julie? She's just really big now and
Wasn't
blue?
didn't it have like a dome?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be exciting to see. But yeah, he transmits that back to Christian, and that perfectly gets us into how she's going during all of this, because, oh my God, I'll just say that was one of my favorite scenes. That was one of my favorite scenes of just her getting the information from him and it confirming a lot of her suspicions that she gets during this episode, because I was thinking, oh, they're going to wait another episode for her to get this. No, they didn't drag it out
anymore.
They didn't drag it out.
Finally, just to get it done.
And we get the Martian peace talk stuff.
Yes.
And that means Bobby has a point.
Yeah, she's on Earth. She's ignoring all of their advice and just doing her own thing. Like, no, I don't want to take my medal. No, I don't want to wear sunglasses. No.
I'm going to look up.
I will look up. No, I won't shut up when you tell me to.
She will take her meds, though. She's good like that, at least.
Yeah.
She's not that silly.
I will try and push myself, even though I'm clearly still injured.
I can sometimes criticize The Expanse for taking up the time with sci-fi, nerdy, jargony crap. Like, hey, this is how this works. Like, just the technicals can get in the way for me sometimes. But when implemented correctly, it is what is unique to this show. It is so...
It's expanding the expanse.
Yes, and I adored truly them getting into all of the painstaking details of someone from Mars landing on Earth. And we even get people who have been here before and they talk about their experiences.
Yeah, they still get fucked up by it.
They still get fucked up. The sunglasses, the person who vomits. I was all on board for it because it was in service of not only just the universe of this series, but in service
plot in this episode
of Bobby as a character. It was hammering in how strong she is in her convictions, that she is going to keep going forward, and that she does, underneath all of the stoicism, have that spark of rebellion within herself as well, because she isn't going to follow all of these things the way she's told to.
No.
And so
she'll make her own choices, for better or worse.
And her leaving the sunglasses there is just a little bit of flavoring into the stew that is, will Bobby lie under oath, or will she tell the truth? Will she go against the orders that she's been given, or will she adhere to them?
Yes.
And
what's she gonna do when she gets on the stand?
What is she gonna do when she gets on the stand? And that is something, but I just want to know from you, Bobby is a character that we've had a lot of mixed emotions.
Turbulent times.
Turbulent times. And how are you with her currently? And especially in relation to her now intersecting with the bigger plot and just seeing her out of her elements.
Yeah, it's a bit better because now she does have a point. But it's just like, oh, yes, finally! You've been around for so long, and it was all, like, wasn't that interesting. It was in service of something. We could sense that, and we had enough trust in the show to think that as well. But now it's actually paying off. So it feels like a reward. It's just like, oh, we had to watch her do all of that dumb, boring shit, and now she gets to do stuff. But I still don't really care about her as an individual. I care about the information that she has.
Okay, yes, I understand that. I have warmed to her greatly.
Yeah, it's substantially better than a few episodes ago.
This is giving me the follow-through I wanted that from the premiere of the season. They are challenging her worldviews in a way that is far more integral to the thematic resonance that this series has going on within it, in comparison to how they were challenging them or furthering them in previous episodes, which were how, like, in previous episodes it was pretty workmanlike. Here they're adding all of these things, such as she wants Mars to be terraformed. That's her dream. That's something that she's wanting. But due to them being such a militant state, that side of their culture is squashed. It's on hold.
It's not we're not going to do it. It's we've got to do this first. But we can't actually have a war with Earth, so we're just stuck in a Cold War for the foreseeable future, because as long as we have this brewing conflict, we're not going to dedicate resources to terraforming.
There's
weird.
Oh, yeah. There's just certain things about the human condition that is disheartening and maddening, and she wants there to be an ocean on Mars. She's never seen an ocean before. It's something that her and some previous Martian characters have brought up as this dream, this cultural dream. And so when she arrives on Earth, she asks about the ocean. Hey, have you seen it? And she's given the harsh reality of, yes, it stinks. They treat their oceans terribly. It's garbage. They've polluted polluted it. It's a horrible thing. And the more she sees of Earth and the more she hears about Earth,
the more angry she is at the fact that they've squandered these things that they just have in abundance. So they feel entitled to things and they don't care for the things that they have because they've always just had them and they will continue to have them. They will continue to have air. They will continue to have water.
they have neglected what they have had.
Mm-hmm.
But during the course of events in the episode, she and we as well come to realize that Mars would probably be no better because they play the game of politics just as shitty and just as cunning and ruthless and heartless.
They stoop to Earth's level.
Yeah, and so even if Mars did have these abilities, what's the guarantee that they would be any better than Mother Earth? Because
there's no guarantee.
At the end of the day, what we see from her point of view is humanity, no matter if you're from
takes
Earth,
its problems with it.
Takes its problems with them. If you're from Earth or from Mars. And so that...
Or from the belt.
So this was so rewarding to me because I loved her motivations as a character in the first episode, and I wanted to see them explored. I wanted to see them be challenged by the show or other characters, and we have Christian sitting there looking her in the eye going, oh, so you know all of these bad things about Earth, correct? You've heard about this? Okay, yeah. Well, here's the reason why those things happen. This is why.
Yep.
Don't you have similar things on Mars? I've heard these things on Mars, but also I've heard all these positive things.
Yeah.
And so, guess what? There's also positive things about...
I'm going to throw shade at that dude being responsible for killing my friend.
Yeah, and I'm also going to let you know that we're not so different, you and I, and that we have to play these silly little mind games with one another. You're the soldier, you play the role, I'm the diplomat, I have to play my role, but we both know, and I love Christian, she doesn't say this out loud, but she basically does, we both know that it's time for things outside of that. Are we both willing to drop the niceties and the fakeness and the facades and, the political agendas to do the right thing?
We all came here in the hopes that we could begin to trust each other. And it would be regrettable to undo the progress we've made over something as trivial as this. I want to speak with Sergeant Draper. Now.
I was so happy that we got an episode that was just actually doing the space politics that we've been asking for way more of. What about you? What were some of the things about the back and forth of Earth and Mars getting ready to even just talk to each other that leapt out at you?
That's a really good question, and I don't have an answer for you because it all kind of bleeds into each other. It's just all part of the thread of that plot in my head. But the thing that sort of sticks out to me right now is us getting that little moment of Christian, Aaron Wright, and the security officer.
Mm-hmm.
And them having a talk and then him walking in being like, I have footage of a guy throwing up if you want to see that.
Oh my God, that was so
that paid
beautiful.
Off the comment that they made, like,
they fly drones over to look at us and laugh at our despair. And they literally do that. And
it's just like, they are that fucking petty. They are.
And Aaron Wright had no time for that bullshit. I just, the way Sean Doyle played that I can't remember what he said. It was like, oh, maybe later, or not right now, but there was such a coldness to it because him and Christian were conversing about something important. And then this man spoke. Someone Aaron Wright doesn't really know.
Beneath him.
It's as if a child interrupted them and he just dismissed it really offhand. And that was so great because Aaron Wright, when talking to Christian, he is really leaning into I'm a level-headed diplomat and I'm your friend and I'm being the voice of reason here. Christian, it's time for diplomacy. He said that. I think I'm pretty sure he said something like that. And yet he was the one wanting to attack them in one of the last episodes. He was the one that's like, oh, if we extend our hand, that's weakness. And now he is looking at her saying, Christian, pull your head in. We've got to talk. We've got to be civil. Don't you know that? I really like how they find these subtle ways of Aaron Wright trying to pull rank on Christian in the most petty bitch way possible. And he's such a worm. He's such a piece of shit. One of the cute little details is when they enter that room where the Martians and the Earthers are sitting across from one another at their desks, at their big tables. There's little plates of food and like cheese and crackers and people have empty cups of drink. And it just made it feel all the more real because that stuff
lived in.
That stuff came into it during the course of the episode. So at the beginning, it was all bare. It was all their paperwork and their business stuff and everything needed for this occasion. And then as the day, as this testimony, as all of these things wear on, someone's brought them in food and someone's brought them in drinks and everyone's
unbuttoned things and slouching more and not being as reserved in their expressions or their language.
They, at the start of it, are going through the pleasantries with hostility in their voices. Oh, it's so nice to see you. The Secretary General sends his regards. He would have loved to have been
As does the Prime Minister.
And it's these shark grins, these pointed teeth. There's just these dead eyes across at one another. And it's just so good to see Christian actually in this element because we like to look at her through this all the time because she is, she's in the UN, but we haven't actually got to see her do a lot of actual real politics stuff.
No, what I would say is that we have seen her playing against her own team.
That's a great way to put it too. But even then, a lot of the stuff she's doing is, you could say, it's more spy espionage-y stuff because she's looking for files and she's got this person over here, but we don't get to see her sitting in a lot of rooms all the time doing these talky scenes as much as you would expect from her. So we're nearing the end of season 2 and it's like, oh, look, here's a conference. Here's a thing where she's having to face off against an opponent.
Yes. And she has a goal in mind and she'll get it.
And we also get to see Aaron Wright face off against an opponent politically and how he has his methods. Oh, they also have that insane general there, or admiral, the one who's very militant. And he has no fucking cool. I know why he's in that room, but even Aaron Wright gives him a look of, come on, man. Come on. Because he is there just having a dick measuring competition with the other one, with the Martian lady. It's like, oh, we could shoot you. Well, we'll shoot you too. Fuck you. And then I had a good giggle. These two wore themselves out on threats.
Yep. Just like boom, 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 boom.
We're here. No fighting in the war room. But I said it before, but my favorite moment My favorite moment of the episode was, yes, this is very serious. People lost their lives in a conflict that wasn't necessary. Let's have a moment of silence. And then,
Okay, then.
Aaron, and everyone looks at Aaron like, what the fuck, dude? But he keeps going. He doesn't break a sweat.
No, he has no regard for the life that was lost.
Well, that's a question I wanted to put on the table. Do you think that was a sign of Aaron Wright being uncaring in that way?
Uncaring and wanting a power move.
I saw it way more I actually saw it purely as him doing a power move.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's also because he doesn't. He's comfortable pulling that power move because he matters more than those people ever did.
Oh, of course. Him taking charge of the conversation is way more important than the actual gesture of the moment of silence and the actual gesture that any of this is for. Like, this is supposed to be to stop a war and to acknowledge the lives lost, but it's not actually about that.
Not for him.
Not for any of them. That's a part of the issue is they're overlooking the reality of this conflict.
That is definitely part of it. But I do think there are people on both sides of that table that are committed to stopping a war from happening. And I think it's really only one person from each side.
Yes. Obviously, they don't want a war, but the talk.
They don't want a war, but they still want the conflict.
Yes, that's it. They don't actually want peace. They just want silence. They just want things to stay
at the stalemate.
At the stalemate. No one is actually willing to progress. They all want to stay where they are. Some want to fight, but they're told not to, so they aren't.
They don't want to lose their position.
It's important to remember the terrible cost of battle.
In victory or defeat,
That's a good thing to keep in mind.
you should spread it to your fleet.
Maybe you could tell them when our ships get to Jupiter. It won't take long.
We're looking forward to it.
They call Bobby in, and she is in her uniform. She's got the medal on because they told her that you have to wear it. She's following the orders. And I was expecting her to tell the truth. I thought that this was going to be the big launching off point. I thought she was going to waver and back and forth it and then erupt into that thing. I actually really wasn't sure if she was going to just straight up tell her story the way that she knows it to be, or if she was going to... Yeah, because there was enough in these...
There was enough doubt, yes. But
in these 2 episodes with her to
for me,
make it something that you could doubt, and there is enough road to be traveled in the episode if she did do it in that part of the story.
For me, I always felt it was going to be something that Christian weaseled out of her. Because she's so committed to Mars. But this has really gotten to her. So I was just like, it would be a great way to build tension, to build up to that breaking point, and her admitting something that leads Christian to the truth, which is basically what happens. But I was surprised that it was across 2 sessions. I didn't expect that. So I really got fooled when they ended the first one. I was just like, this was a lot for it just to, a lot of build up for it to just work.
The Martians throw that one guy under the bus, the Earthborn Marine.
The purpose-built scapegoat.
Yes. And
just like, here you are, I deliver you.
I was...
The blame.
And
here we go. It all goes here. It all goes here.
And I like that.
Yeah, it was very truthful to Mars. And what we've seen, that they are willing to lie and that they put the needs of the many, they outweigh the needs of the few. The needs of the many trump the needs of the one or the few every single time with Mars in particular. Pretty much all of the plots do it. But in Mars,
I know.
in
what
the
you're saying.
context of Mars, we see it more often and we feel the impact of it a little bit more. Like, we see the cost that it comes with, that illusion of being so cohesive.
There's a coldness because there's a lack of free will and agency to the people under the Martian rule at times. They are enlisted. If you had a choice, would you have been a soldier? Well, yes, I would have. Yes, I would have. Of course, that's what you would say if you've lived in
But we also know that
culture.
that's probably true because
But if she didn't,
she did it, but
because
her
of her death.
siblings didn't.
Yes, but
in
at
the
the
same
same
way.
but the same argument can be made of if she didn't live in a culture that indoctrinates you and perpetuates that
Yes.
psyche, would you? And they have a certain sense of honor and what being a hero is that you and I imagine many viewers would find to be dubious
Yeah.
at best, because
You
the
can justify a
chaplain-
lot of shady shit with the principles that they have.
the chaplain, a man of God, is advocating for lying. He's advocating for
Yeah.
ruining the innocence of a man
Mm-hmm.
because
It
he will be
serves
a
our
hero.
purposes.
He will be a hero. He's a hero, but it's
It will-
like
It
no
will
one.
mean something
But he's a hero because you guys have framed him as
as a villain.
a traitor. As a traitor, basically, as someone who has ruined the sanctity of peace,
Yep.
at least. But thankfully, you guys
And,
admitted that he did that. So
further
now
reinforcing the divide between Earth and Mars.
that's it.
The exact opposite of what, like,
They're ruthless.
wait. You know what? It is kind of what he wanted.
Mhm.
But he wanted to be on the Martian side.
Uh-huh.
And they've used him to drive that wedge between their cultures. But also, it's driving a wedge to fix a gap so that they're less close to war. There's a lot of metaphor happening there. I'm sorry.
And they don't regard the fact that Bobby is a person,
No.
because
It's like, you don't get to have feelings about this.
and
Shut up.
well,
Shut.
look,
No.
he was your best man.
Feel in private. Feel
yeah, don't,
elsewhere. Go away.
In fact, don't feel that way. Just obey, because he was your best
yeah.
man. He was your best man. Is that correct? He was your best man. Guess what? He's doing the best thing he can right now, taking the fall, being framed as a villain
Because he's dead.
because
So
no.
he's our tool to use
He-
whatever way we want to use him, alive or dead.
Martians are willing to do anything to get what they want, and so when you do have those ships out there at Venus, and the scientists are worried about there being something going wrong, it's validated by the chaplain here talking about using this dead man as this scapegoat. And we get Christian. She is up in arms about this with Aaron Wright.
Like, it's too easy. It's too easy.
It's like he was designed for this, and the Secretary General and Aaron Wright are just blowing it off like,
Don't
hey,
look a gift horse in the mouth.
never-
And she's just like, that expression's stupid.
I've never understood that expression, and nor do I want to.
But like,
But she raises points so well that Aaron Wright does have a change of heart about
He
it.
does. He can't ignore that she's right anymore.
But
he seems kind of pissed about the fact that it's like, oh,
yes, but also
damn it, she's right.
But I also think that there is a glint in his eye of being compelled genuinely in her brilliance because he does admire her. He does respect her as a person, although he wants to destroy her and undermine her for his own needs. He's aware of how brilliant she is.
Yeah.
Not just in the cunning sense, but in this way as well, where she's very perceptive and she's using it here, and this could benefit us. Because at the end of the day, even though
this might be the key to getting us on top.
Because even though at the end of the day, he's on a bad guy's side, he doesn't have all of the information.
No.
And so if he can get more, he can work an angle. He can do these things because he has no allegiance to anyone. He has no allegiance to Mao. He has no allegiance to the UN. It's for him. He's playing everyone against each other so that he can, I don't know, have a cushier life. Like, at this point...
It's just power, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just power. It's money, power, and just a sense of purpose at this point. When you look back at season 1, you know that he's already been doing these things.
Yes.
But he has that neutral expression all the time.
Yeah.
And he expresses his opinions in a very matter-of-fact way. And I look at that as obviously a persona he's putting on, but I also think it tells us about how he does all of this stuff because it's something to do. Like, he's got this air of apathy to things, and him doing all of this elaborate stuff it's exciting because Aaron Wright, when we go back into the chambers and they bring Bobby back in, and even Christian saying, I want to talk to her again, he is exhilarated to be doing that. Like, it gets him going.
Yep.
And so he's a man that thrives on schemes and ploys and he lives for it. And so I think a large part of it is it's the thrill of it.
Yep.
It's the thrill of just being this evil, chaotic little bitch. I love him. Him and Christian are like a power couple to me. They're so good. And what do you think of the Secretary General? Because he only gets a bit, but he shows some new colors we haven't seen before.
Yeah. I just look at him and go, you're such a tit.
How would you like us to proceed?
Squeeze the air dusters for everything you can get, of course.
With pleasure, sir.
Christian, she needs those answers, Rachel. She needs the answers. So call that Marine back in here. There's things in her story that I don't quite understand. And she just starts poking holes in it. Hey, he was born here, but his family moved over to Mars because of the dream, right? And so, would he fire on the Earth people because of his fear? Wasn't he a competent Martian Marine like you? Yes, he was. So, she Columbos her, by the way.
Yeah. I loved it.
This is probably the best scene in the show that we've had. At least for me. This is right up there with the Mormon conversation from the first season. I don't know about you, but I also thought that Bobby played it really well too, because she is having to try and keep the party line going while crumbling.
She's not a match for Christian. She's not. She tries and she crumbles.
She gets angry. She gets angry because it isn't right what's going on. And yeah, the Martian guy tries to stop Christian by undermining her, saying, yeah, where are you going with all of this? What are we doing? I'm going wherever the fuck I like, mister. Fuck you. Oh,
wherever I goddamn please.
this actress, I've seen her in a bunch of things over the years. I remember her very fondly for a fairly minor role, but still a pivotal one in Flash Forward. I don't know if anyone remembers the TV series Flash Forward. It was a short-lived show, but she has a real breathiness in her voice, and the way she responds in that sequence was very abstract in comparison to how you would expect a big snarky line like that to be delivered. It's almost like all of the air in her lungs just came out when she just said that. It's like everything in her just gasped out of her to say that line, and it makes it ever so cutting and memorable in a way that, again, it's a way of she has a way of delivering lines that is so specific that I really am wondering now if it's the way that this actress holds herself and delivers these lines that makes Christian stand out even more, because no one is talking like her. It's not the dialogue. It's the way that she says these lines. It's not just because the actress has a certain accent. It's her inflection. It's her breathiness. It's that rasp in her voice that really sticks with me. I mean, what do you think, Rachel? Because we talk about her having some of these snappy one-liners, but it's about how the performer brings those into the spotlight. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Like, it's absolutely about the performer as well, and it would be different and feel very different if the vocal performance wasn't what it is. I do appreciate the way that she conveys with such ease how reserved Christian is and how observant she always is. Part of that is that she commands a power from within, whereas Aaron Wright is trying to get power from outside himself and bring it in.
I find her to be the strongest character, most powerful character.
Yep, I agree with that.
The one that intimidates me the most, and it's interesting to say that when this is a series where you have people like Amos, who is this strong, intelligent monster of a figure who can just rip you apart.
Christian would break my heart, and I would feel like she could snap me in two with a look if she wanted to. If I disappointed Amos, I feel like he would be more forgiving or just fuck me right up.
Bobby is...
And if I disappointed Jimmy...
Oh, well, yeah.
He would be
as
like,
usual.
oh,
I'm always disappointed. And Bobby is this strong Martian Marine. We know she can kick ass. She can break things, and she's got these convictions, and she's wavering on them. And she is like me, where you have just this older woman leaning forward and looking and asking questions, and it's got me nervous.
Like digging it under that skin, right under there.
Yeah, I just Christian is a character that's positioned well and played well,
Yes.
where she's a talker. Her talking is far more nerve-wracking and exciting than the characters who get things done through action.
Yeah.
And we have often complained in this series, or in many series, that we would rather characters perform actions to tell us who they are rather than dialogue.
Yes.
But Christian is the perfect example of how dialogue is action as well. She doesn't just talk and do things for the sake of it.
Nope.
It's never just fluff conversations from Christian. It's always in the service of something greater and a bigger insight into her psyche. So yeah, she breaks Bobby in two. She gets Bobby to spill the beans about there was a man out there not wearing a spacesuit.
It's a slip.
Mm-hmm.
One that Bobby tries to recover from, but Christian's got what she needed. She's not letting go of it.
And that chaplain tries to come over and let's give it up for Christian. She tells a chaplain to go fuck off. Only she has the power to tell a chaplain to go fuck himself. Hey, who are you? What are you doing here? Fuck off. Let her talk. Let her talk. Let her talk. But Bobby, she goes back in to the Marine mode. She
clams back up.
And lies. It's too late.
Lies, because she's towing the party line.
And Christian, she had the disappointment of a mother when you've lied to her. Like when you lie to your mum and she gives you that look of like,
I don't know. You think I don't know.
And then her sexy, maybe Australian scientist boyfriend figure, I don't know what he is in relation. The possible Australian, possible former lover, or at least flirt, gives her the information and she is immediately clocking in on what it is. Oh, okay. A man without a suit could be like that. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And we're going to figure out what that is. She's on it. And
she's on it and she's not. She's got the scent. Even more like, and she's going to go after it. And I really hope that we get more of that next episode because I'm going to be really frustrated if they've nailed it with her this episode. And then it's just like, we're going to go back off. Because it was just like Earth was being neglected for a while. So I'm kind of worried that they're going to go back into that.
You call them takers, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not that they're lazy, you know. It's just that we can't give them enough opportunities. In this building, it's easy to forget.
With all due respect, madam, where are you going with this?
Wherever I goddamn like.
But we have a bit with our crew, our Rossi crew. And they steal a ship. And they get a guy killed. And they have a plan, and it sucks.
Well, they're doing their best.
Like, I'm just on Melissa's side.
They board this ship that is going to
this episode.
The namesake that's going to Ganymede to give relief.
Yep.
They are there with medical supplies and food and they are doing a noble work. They aren't like the belters of the last episode. They are doing something good, and they resent Holden immediately. Yes. They fight against him when they think he's just a Martian Marine because they're willing to die for the ability to help these people in Ganymede. That's how selfless they are. They get so
They work
angry.
within the system as well. Like, they've done this a number of times. They're like, we're going to stop and they're going to take this much, but we'll get to do some good.
Yes,
doing some good is better than doing nothing.
And yes, there's corruption there. And the reality is you have to take that to be able to do some good. We are not you, Holden, where we're these pure idealistic characters who's going to bend over backwards to stop any form of badness ever. No, there's little bits of badness that one has to take to do things. And that notion, that thing there, really rings loudly when you get to the end of the episode because Holden and Amos do the noble good thing and just shoot their way in there and fuck everything up for this woman and this guy. I knew immediately that one of them was... I actually thought both of them were going to die.
I was like, he's going to die. At least he's going to die because he was the level-headed one.
I thought it was a really bold move on the show, and this is my stance on it. And I wonder if this is also just the way the actors all play it, but we have these two characters speaking their truth and saying it with passion and just outright rejecting the story that our main characters are on, because they have their own story that they're doing in this system.
They are living their lives, and they would be better off if they weren't intersecting with the Rossi crew.
And I felt that the Rossi crew, although having mixed emotions about it, felt very
detached.
Yeah, that they felt like bad people in this episode.
Yes.
Especially when we're interacting with these guys, because they hear them out and they just say,
they're also pissed at Amos for telling Prax what is actually going on.
Oh yeah, that was a moment too.
That's another part of it. So it's like seeded throughout the episode of they're kind of making poor decisions because they're so focused on the end goal. They don't care about what or who they step on to get there, because they're going to save the galaxy again.
It's what Anderson Dawes said. Good men do bad things because they have to do the right thing.
Yep.
And bad men believe they're doing good because, that is just how it works. But that's Holden in this episode.
Yeah.
They aren't openly dismissive and horrible to these people, but it is so clear that we made a little plan, and a part of our plan was to board this ship and hide in it and do this.
So
you don't
get a choice.
They have no autonomy. In Jimmy Holden's plan, these people, it will work out for them. Like, that's how he looks at it.
Yeah,
it'll work out because
they'll be fine. They'll be fine. There's no reason that they'll get hurt.
And there's no reason for them to be annoyed. Oh, they can be, but, we are on the right side.
Yeah, like, they get to have feelings, but they can't get in our way.
And it is really, really great of this episode to hammer in that these folk aren't just some ragtag slacker belters that they're stealing the ship from. It's not as if this crew, this ship, is what
Diogo's uncle.
It's not what the Cant was.
No.
These are people who are heroes. Honorable. And they're getting jacked by our crew because they have something honorable to do too. And they don't even have a plan.
No. But they're weirdly we're just, we're not carjacking them. Because we're not going to steal the ship. We're just forcibly hitchhiking.
And
it's just what the fuck? What mental gymnastics are you doing to justify your shitty behavior now, Holden?
And they, if they're going to do this, have to prove their worth to these folk, which they don't because, one, Holden is on the boarding party.
God.
And they rip off his mask, and they instantly recognize who he is because he is a recognizable face. And it's like, well, one, you fucked up there immediately because now you're going to have to go to Ganymede, and one of your crew is literally a recognizable figure, and yet you're supposed to be doing a secret mission. That's one of the things that is...
It's you're a liability, Holden.
He's a liability. He is someone that if these two know who he is... Obviously, when they go to Ganymede, people are going to spot him and go, that's that Holden guy. He's probably here for certain reasons. Stop him now. And yet, they don't really address that. They go back and they have this plan, and they lay out this plan, and that there's going to do this. Alex is going to fly over here, and you guys are going to do this, and there's going to be this thing, and they're going to shoot us out of the sky. And it's a very bad plan. It's
very bad.
But it's classic. Rossi crew.
Yeah.
Prax thinks
double down on the dumb.
Prax thinks it's a weak plan.
Yeah.
These two think it's a weak plan. And
we both think it's a dumb plan.
Amos just...
Amos is just I'll do what you tell me to, boss.
Oh, but when asked, he goes, no, this is pretty average for us. This is where we usually are at when it comes to competency.
I love him.
I loved him in this episode. I thought Amos was in top form.
He's back to being fun, and I like it.
He had so many great little lines and just sequences and character beats. Like, I thought his relationship to Prax in this episode was really illuminating to him, because we have Prax now on the Rossi, and what's he going to be? Oh, he's a guide, but what is he actually going to be? And he is guilty. He feels the guilt of what went wrong on Ganymede, but he also feels the guilt of what happened to
his friend.
And he's sending out this message to the family, and he's telling a story of events, and he isn't allowed to transmit it because he is a prisoner on the Rossi, but he's not a prisoner. So, hey, Amos, what's going on here? And you're the big Amos fan, so I'll pass it to you, but...
We already did touch on it slightly, but he's just like, well, no, like, Prax is helping us out, so he deserves the truth, so I told him the truth. And we don't get to see exactly what he said or how he says it. It's just, no, like, Prax is still being dragged into this. He doesn't have a choice in terms of his participation. But the clarity about what's going on, that's a choice. And Amos made that choice.
Prax does not know Amos, but Prax, in the 2 episodes we've known him, the way he expresses himself is perfectly suited for Amos to understand, because he's very clear. And the way he expresses like morals and like how things should work, like how fairness should work, lines up really well with Amos, because he asks him, am I a prisoner? He's like, no, you're not. And then, okay, so if I'm not a prisoner, how come I can't do these things? Well, because the captain said. Well, okay, well, if the captain said, well, how come he hasn't told me? And it's like, what is his rule? Well, I don't know. And he just destroys the deck of cards here and just shuffles them up and say, well, let's play it my way. I'm a guide here. I need to actually know things that are happening for a start. So I'm not going to leave here until I talk to Holden and I get a crystal clear picture of what is going on. And Amos, it's just a quick shot, but he gives him this look of, fair.
Yeah.
He's not looking at him like, oh, Prax is a problem. He looks at Prax as, you're reasonable, completely logical. So when later on, as we've said, he's told Prax everything he needs to know, and they like, hey, you broke the chain of command. What chain of command? It was the right thing to do, not just right, but logical too. And I like their relationship. Prax is a cool character. Why is it that this guy who's been in like an episode and a half basically already overshadows some of the previous ones we've had, like in season 1?
I don't know. Like, I'm sure if I thought about it hard enough, I would be able to come up with reasons. But I think a part of it is it was a very quick and skillful introduction to the character. He has very clear motivations, and he isn't being added in at the expense of anything else. He's an added character that's actually adding and contributing to the plot. I think that's a big part of why it's working for me.
I want to see this, and I'm wondering if they are going to do this. We now have 2 dads on the Rossi. We have Alex, who in this episode really did the dad thing again. Hey, look, guys, I made you the lasagna. Have a good time.
Again, in the brownie pan.
And then he says, I tried this out. I think you guys will like it. Like, he's treating them like his children going off to camp.
Everybody gets the edge piece in the brownie tin that he uses.
And we have Alex, where he's a dad who has lost his family seemingly because he has decided that. It's been challenged in a previous episode. And we have Prax, a man who's had his family, his child, taken from him. That's something I want to actually see explored in the show. Like that's a dynamic. Like that's a thing. I want those two characters to talk to one another. I want to hear them have conversations about what it's like to be a father, because they know what that is like. They actually do know that, and yet they can relate to one another, but also drastically different types of people. That's something I want to see.
And then we'll assess the situation and take it from there.
Your plan's always this vague?
This is about average.
You all must be very lucky.
We've certainly had our fair share.
Hey.
Although, was a bit surprised that it ended because I was just so in the thick of the episode. It is a great ending. Just Holden with this dumb look on his face of like, wow, I guess I really did fuck that one up. Like,
yeah,
he doesn't even
screwed the pooch here.
But he doesn't look like he's about to weep. Like, oh no, I've made. Like,
No.
he just looks at it as oh, another mistake.
Yep. He's learning to live with those.
Yeah.
It's not as dramatic as those first couple that he made last season. I think we've been fairly clear that we've really enjoyed this episode. So I don't think our ratings are going to be a surprise. But Ryan, on our scale being yum equals bad, yum yum equals good, what is the Weeping Somnambulist?
I'm going to give this a very proud yum yum.
Yum yum.
Rachel, yum or yum yum?
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's a solid episode. A good episode, really well paced, really well performed, really well written.
What is the title of the next episode?
Cascade.
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 It's a cascade of a cascade. So, predictions for the next episode and or anything in the future of the season or series. What have you got?
Ganymede. I think it's going to be a Ganymede-focused episode. We've gotten the crew there. We've got Alex hiding out. I think that it's going to be mainly focused on that. Maybe a little bit with the possible Australian at Venus. But I'm not holding my breath for that one. And I think a little bit more of Christian sleuthing.
I think that the next episode is definitely going to be the Ganymede stuff. I think it's going to be action-packed thrill ride, a bit of a caper, nail-biting stuff. And if there is a secondary plot, which I imagine there is, but I would not be surprised if it is all of these moving pieces on Ganymede, like with Alex and Amos is doing this and Naomi's over here and Prax is doing this and there's the evil scientist over there. I think it's time to touch base with where Mao is at.
Yeah, he got dropped again in this episode.
And so I would not be surprised if he at least factors in.
Yeah.
And I'm mainly saying that because I want to see him again, or at least hear about his actions.
Maybe he's at Venus.
And I was actually going to say, I think the scientist at Venus will be a focus a little bit more because they have introduced this character and they've only used him once since his introduction, and this was it. And they're really giving us a lot to go on with him as a person and the other people on that ship. So I would think that. But any predictions further down the line, or is it just the next episode? Because after this one,
I think we're mostly done with Gunny.
For the season? Forever.
For the season. I feel like there won't be another big moment with her.
Maybe in the final episode of the season where I see my Gunny's an enigma to me because I've thought I understood what she would be about, and then they haven't really done any of it. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like my thought was she's going to be a loyal Martian Marine, and then she's going to become disillusioned with the Martians, and she will somehow turn heel on them because she, like with the crew of the Rossi or even Christian, realizes that there's something more important than holding on to the allegiances of certain sides. As Fred Johnson says, you got to choose a side. And so I would not be at all shocked if at the end of this season she is done with Mars. But Gunny is actually, the way they've executed their storyline has really thrown me for a loop, so I'm not as confident in that right now. And even if I am, I could see it being at the end of next season with the way they've paced her out. So that's all we've got.
Thank you, Yumlings, for listening so attentively. If you want even more of our Expanse discussions, Patreon is the place that you got to hit up because we release these episodes there first.
For our patrons. And if you join the Patreon, yes, you get to hear even more episodes of The Expanse right now.
So many other things to choose from.
We have a huge
our
back
Aliens
catalog.
discussion, our RoboCop movie discussions.
X-Men,
Ever want to
Star Trek.
know what New Mutants was about? We're one of the few people that actually watched that movie and talked about it.
Oh, yeah, and we've got...
more than a year after its release. Come on.
And we have a group Discord where you can talk to other members of the community and us, share some thoughts. If you want to as well, you can follow us on your social media of choice under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. All of this is included in the description below, as well as our email address if you want to contact us directly over at yumyumpod@gmail.com. And we have to give the Weeping Somnambulist a big round of applause for two reasons. One, we didn't mock the title. That's how much we enjoyed the episode, because this is a very wanky title.
Oh boy, yeah.
And if this was an episode we didn't like, we would have been making fun of the title all day. And the second is, we did not even reference the Gaunt Belter until right now. No, he didn't even enter my brain. He didn't even enter the brain for me, because everything in this was clicking so well that I wasn't
on Venus.
Yeah, I mean, look, the episode was good.
Yeah.
And all. It wasn't so good that I didn't think about where is Havelock, but it was pretty good.
See you then. Well, voila.